We do have MNDOT here. They're going to talk specifically about the 169 project. For those of you guys who live around the area, I think we're all excited that the Highway 100 project is finishing up, but that leads to the start of another project, one that will cause some delays. So all we're trying to do is just provide you guys with as much information as we possibly can. So with that, I will introduce to you our speaker from MNDOT. His name is Andrew Latoya. He is the project manager for the 169 project specifically. He has a presentation he will take you guys through. It's about a 20-25 minute presentation. Then we'll have about 20 or 25 minutes for questions. With that, I will welcome Andrew and turn it over to him.
Thank you all for coming and giving us an opportunity to update you on what is going to turn out to be a impact on your commute on 169. 169 project runs from Highway 62 to Highway 55. And as part of this work, there is going to be some bridge repair work, there's going to be bridge replacement, some pavement repair, and a couple of minor projects also included in this, including closing a ramp on 16th Street in St. Louis Park, and also adding acceleration and deceleration lanes by Cedar Lake Road. So throughout my presentation, I'll be hitting more into detail on what those projects might look like. The current schedule, we originally were planning on working on this project from November 1st of this year through November 1st of 2017, with all the work, including the other minor projects, done within that one-year season. But luckily enough, once we got a contractor on board, Ames Construction, that contract was just awarded, finalized today. In their proposal, they submitted to MNDOT to have the project run from January of 2017 to September, end of September of 2017. So that's about a 9-month closure. And again, we are only closing or shutting down a segment of 169, and that is the segment between Brain Road and 7th Street or Lincoln and 5th Street ramp exit of 169. We are proposing to allow at least one lane of traffic in either direction on 169 throughout the construction. Without traffic impacts, we propose to the contractor that they will not do any non-concurrent ramp closures. So meaning, if they're working on a ramp, the one before and after each area should and will remain open to allow people to get on and off the highway. Part of the work that is going to be involved in the general project is to replace the 9 Mile Creek Bridge. Back in 2010-11, during a bridge inspection, the picture on your left, on the left of the screen, we discovered that the columns that are supporting this bridge deck were experiencing sectional loss. The sectional loss was mainly caused by salt melt dripping directly onto these columns with our snow and ice removal operations. This triggered us to move the bridge replacement up 5 years. The original plan was to work on this bridge in 2021, but we moved it up to coincide with the pavement rehabilitation on the corridor that couldn't wait until 2021. And it also speaks to the reasoning behind how we came to propose getting this job done within a one-year season. The big project that MNDOT will be working on is 35W. through in South Minneapolis to 94. That work is slated to start in 2018. The major traffic impacts are slated to happen in 2018, and that is proposed to be about a 4-year project. To get us ready for that work, we have been working on Highway 100 and Highway 494. Both those projects will be done by November of this year. They will also then support the traffic diversions of 169 due to the closure. So the official detours for our closure will be 494 and 100. So once 169 is done, then we have at least 3 routes that would help mitigate the impacts due to the work that is coming up in 2018 on 35W. This picture right here shows what we are proposing to replace the bridge with by 9 Mile Creek, and we are calling it a causeway, which is in essence it's a field-supported roadway. Different from a bridge, no piers or no columns. It's just fill and a roadway embankment on top of it. So that is the big project, the big part of the project that is involved in the entire 169 corridor. The other work that we are proposing is to lengthen the acceleration and deceleration lanes by Cedar Lake Road. One of the big pushes that were causing us to act were the current lanes causing some weaving issues. People are not picking up enough speed, or those who do, they're cutting quickly through oncoming traffic, and we're seeing this as a major safety issue. We have had about 24 crashes in this location. This project will then take use of the existing shoulder, turn that into a short third lane, and we are pushing out the guardrail and the curb and gutter to allow at least for a 4-foot shoulder. We believe by lengthening the acceleration lane and the deceleration lane in this area, we would be solving the weaving issues that we are seeing at this location. The other project within that we're also going to be doing is to close the ramp southbound 169 to 16th Street. Working with the city of St. Louis Park, we got consent to close this access. We were recording about 25 crashes in the last 4 or 5 years in this particular location. The biggest reasons were the short ramp distance from 394 to 16th Street. And similarly, people were coming from 16th Street coming on to 169. There isn't enough much distance for them to pick up enough speed to join mainline traffic. So some of that was the biggest causes of the crashes that we're experiencing out there. But luckily enough, with the amount of traffic that we're experiencing on this corridor, we were not seeing fatal crashes, mainly minor crashes or fender benders. But this was giving us reason to propose the closure, and we had to go through the city of St. Louis Park to get their consent for us to do this. So as part of the ramp closure, we are going to be installing a visual barrier in this location, and just short of blocking the vehicular traffic on the highway, there is also an acoustical benefit of these walls that, in essence, they do act as noise walls. So hopefully the neighborhood behind this wall would get a much better advantage to us closing the ramp with the installation of the visual barrier. The work that pretty much wraps everything up on this corridor is the pavement repair that is going to be running from Highway 62 to Highway 55. And this work will also include some ramp improvements. So these are the chutes that are coming off our highway connecting to the local network. What was prompting us to do this, the picture on the right side is showing the level of pavement condition or the type of pavement condition that we're experiencing on this highway. And the work would include cutting out those chunks, the cracks, most of the cracks that are really wide and bad, and replacing them with new material. So that should improve the ride or the ride quality on the roadway. And yes, we will also be diamond grinding. I don't know if you can see the grooves on the picture on the top left, kind of shows the grooves in the pavement. So we shall be also doing that on the new pavement. That helps with not only friction, but also noise reduction. So trying to get the benefit of that as well. As part of also the pavement repair work, we are going to be replacing the noise wall by Excelsior Boulevard. I did mention the ADA pedestrian accessibility on the offshoots of 169 to the local system. And we're also going to be replacing the concrete barrier at Excelsior Boulevard. We are looking to add work, similar work on Minnetonka Boulevard, and the two bridges of 169 that go over the BNSF rail just north of Minnetonka Boulevard. The official detour that we are going to be posting is that if you're going north, it's 62 east to 100 north, and if you're going south, it will be 394 to 494. MNDOT has been in conjunction with Kimley Horn to help us with the public engagement aspects of the project. We have them on board to continue this effort through construction completion that, again, we are expecting at the end of September of 2017. I do encourage you to, once in a while, access the project website. I also encourage you to sign up to our constant contact list. That will give you an opportunity to get up-to-date information on upcoming closures of ramps, what is coming for traffic shifts on the system, and any proposed improvements in a sense of nighttime work or weekend work that may be coming up. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
All right, I have two questions. One is regarding the causeway that you're going to be building where the bridge is right now on 169.
Yep.
And the second question is related to that too. What will the future sound be for those residents in 9 Mile Cove?
Sure. So the question about the causeway that we are proposing to replace instead of the bridge, a causeway, in a sense, it's a roadway. It's a roadway that is intended to be built across I'm going to call it a wet area. So it does allow flow from the environment around it, different from a bridge, because the bridge is supported on piles. So it's a floating deck. To build a bridge, I'm going to call them, they're approach panels, so they're joints that have to be introduced into the system where the bridge ends and the rest of the roadway begins. So for noise implications, that's where most of the noise on bridge decks is caused by tires going across the joints. For a roadway, that then is eliminated. So we won't have that kajang as vehicles go across the roadway. So that also then answers your second question on in terms of noise on this roadway. I did mention as part of the pavement rehabilitation that we are going to be grinding, or we are going to be introducing grooves on the pavement. Those two have been shown to lessen tire noise. So those two, the roadway and the grooving of the pavement, are giving us some acoustical benefit from vehicular traffic.
Hello, thank you for this meeting. I have 3 questions, and I hope I can remember all 3. It's late in the day. First of all, I'm wondering about, you talked about sound barriers. We are right off of the bridge there, and many neighbors have inquired about having a wall or some sort of sound barrier right next to that bridge on the, let's see, it would be the east side of 169. We came a tad late, but I saw you do one barrier, but I don't think it was in that area. Are there any plans for any barrier there? And then I think 9 Mile Cove is on the other side. They're further away, of course, so they might not be as impacted by the noise as the other side would be. So that's one question. And the second would be, because of the subsoil and the soggy, marshy area there, we have experienced when buses or trucks would be on the other side, in the east side of 169, in the little industrial area there. And if there were trucks and buses would be revving their, or just leaving their motors run, there would be, through this soggy subsoil, this clay, really marshy soil, a lot of vibration that I could feel in my home. It's almost like deep bass sounds that you hear in cars that just kind of vibrate your whole neighborhood when they come through. Basically, have they done any studies on that? And if this kind of vibration from the cars coming across that all the time would come through the soil and vibrate into the houses, that could be a very difficult kind of situation to live in. And then I don't know the impact on the structural integrity of the residences there as well. So that's the second one. And the third one, maybe a little more pragmatic, is on the ramp off of the 5th Street Lincoln going north. Would that be blocked all of the time as well? Or some of, you talked briefly about some ramp openings and closings. So are some of those ramps possibly going to be open for some of the time or not?
Okay.
And thank you.
No, good questions. And I have to remember what you asked, though. So, let's start from the last one. So what we are proposing. So your question is the ramps by 5th and Lincoln, going northbound. If those will remain open. The segment of 169 that we are going to be closing is between Bryn Road and 7th Street. So for people who are coming from south of Bryn, they have an opportunity to get off Bryn and make a left or a right. But the on-ramp to northbound 169 from Bryn is going to be closed for the 9 months. So similarly, on the west side, people who are coming from Bryn Road to south of 169, that ramp will remain open and they'll have access onto the highway. North of Bryn Road, 7th Street, which is the Lincoln 5th, the on-ramp to 169 from 7th will remain open. Similarly, the off-ramp from 169 to 7th too will remain open. We, however, have been continuing coordinating with the cities along this corridor, and the city of Hopkins approached us and they requested that we consider closing the off-ramp from 169 to 7th because there is really not a connected local network on the west side of 169. So to continue discouraging cut-through traffic to use the system, they thought that it was a good idea for us to do so. So again, that is still under consideration for us to add into our project. Your second question about vibrations, highway vibrations and impact.
Excuse me?
Yep.
Regarding that one ramp opening and closing, I just triggered another question, and that is, since the Hopkins business people are wanting to have a lot of less cut through into their area, what we've experienced from Bryn Road is through a residential area, going from there and then coming back through and hooking into the Fifth Street Lincoln exit and going north on that ramp.
Okay.
Would that continue then? And there would be lots of disruptions in that residential area then?
So, right, so, yes, the question about, I have to repeat the question because the TV guys told me to talk. About cut-through traffic on, is it Malibu? Yeah, Malibu. So on the east side, the way the local network is set in this area, most of the accessibility is on the west side. That is where the commercial district is. That is why we also have Shady Oak Road, a county road that does have the capacity to take on the additional vehicular traffic. On the east side, Blake Road, Vernon, there are residential streets, and yes, Malibu is also another residential street. So the connectivity of the system is not as well defined as the one on the west side. Yes, do we expect people to still cut through? Probably they will. What kind of traffic could it be? Mostly, we are thinking residential traffic. For anyone that is using 169 to go to Minneapolis or further north to Plymouth or any northern suburbs, we don't think that cutting through the local network would be of benefit to them, because with the added capacity on Highway 100 and 494, and from the studies that we have been looking at, it is most of a time saving for them to use the alternate routes than staying behind or keeping stuck in traffic for people who are trying to access Brain to the Opus campus or United Health. So the intent is to try and discourage cut-through traffic. There is little we can do about the residential traffic, apart from we are considering using extra law enforcement. We are also considering putting their barricades and extra signage, which hopefully will deter cut-through traffic through the neighborhood.
Right. It's a definite problem right now. I'm foreseeing that would be an even larger problem, especially with families in that area on those city streets.
Right.
Especially going north on Malibu at 4, 5 o'clock, they're cutting through now. It's just a steady stream going through there, and other streets that feed into that as well.
Right.
So
it is a definite concern, and we are hearing, yes, the city representatives have clearly mentioned that to us. But between making it less attractive as a system and still allowing access for the residents, getting that sweet spot is going to be a challenge. Yes, it would be to solve Malibu. It would make sense to actually shut down the on-ramp onto 169. But to date, city representatives have not brought that up as an option. They still want to have the access open. So the more you do that, then you're keeping your network more attractive for past potential cut-through traffic. So there are details that we still have to go through.
Excuse me, is it a city issue then that we're talking about here?
It is. It's not a city issue. It's our issue. It's okay. City and the Department of Transportation trying to figure out the best way we can minimize impacts on the local network.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So the area I'm particularly interested in would be the 169 Highway 7, the Hobby Acres neighborhood. I'm wondering if there's any, or if there has been any consideration to replace that wall barrier around that area. You've mentioned Excelsior Boulevard, you've mentioned Minnetonka. Is there any opportunity within this project to improve upon the noise or sound barrier in that area?
As part of this project, so to improve the noise barrier by Highway 7, you said, and 169, as part of this project, there is not. The reason being, to get this project approved by the Federal Highway Administration, we had to make sure that in a sense, we were not expanding the capacity of the roadway. If we did, then we would have been required to do a noise analysis throughout the entire corridor. And of course, at the moment, we don't have the budget for it. The noise walls that are being replaced on this project are those walls that are directly impacted by the construction itself. So Excelsior Boulevard, for us to do the pavement repair work, and also I have a picture of the noise wall as it looks, we have to do a substantial removal of the outside lane, and to do that we have to knock down the barrier just outside of the shoulders and remove the barrier as well. So that triggered the replacement of that wall. Otherwise, elsewhere, where we are not, where the roadway work is not directly impacting the roadway barriers on the corridor, we are not touching it. However, the department also has it's referred to as the standalone noise wall program, where it allows, it gives opportunity for neighborhoods that are adjacent to our highway system to have noise walls constructed outside any project that MNDOT is proposing. That program does go out and measure noise levels in the neighborhoods adjacent to the highways. And at the moment, with the current funding levels, it allows for about 2 noise wall projects that are about maybe a mile long each to be constructed every year. The current list has about 258 sites on it. So
Well, if you're not
yeah.
on the list, it's not an option. So what's the name
You
of
are,
that program?
everyone is on the list. It
Okay.
depends on how high you're ranking.
Okay. What's the
Yeah.
name of that program?
It's the noise wall priority study, and
Okay.
we do have a link at the
Okay.
MNDOT website that I could share with you right
That would be
after.
great.
Yeah.
And I just want to reconfirm one final question. There will be no expansion of the highway. It's just repaving, besides like the around Cedar Lake and expanding that acceleration lane.
Right. There is
No
no
expansion.
Right. There is no
Okay.
expansion of the highway. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you address the steps, if any, that you're going to take to minimize the increased traffic across the Bren Road Bridge from the Opus 2 development, mainly United Healthcare, that use Lincoln and Vernon to get over to Highway 100 or 50th or what have you? Right now, during rush hour, some evenings, Vernon from the intersection of with Gleason, that signal, all the way to Highway 100 is just stop and go, and the traffic backed up on Vernon going east is sometimes several signal lights to get through there. And with the bridge being open, what deterrent or what steps are you going to take to avoid that getting worse? I mean, I realize that at a certain point people are going to find a different way if they're stuck there for unreasonable times, but
Right.
it looks unreasonable to me right now when we live in that area.
Right. So the question, your question on how MNDOT is proposing to deter traffic from the Opus area through Bren Road to Vernon, that the coordination that we have been having with the cities, it's been really tough on figuring out the best solution for it. Because on one side, MNDOT wants to do exactly that. We want to put up any sort of signage or extra law enforcement that is going to cause traffic to slow down on Vernon. And when it slows down, then backups happen, and then that route becomes less attractive for cut-through traffic. On the other hand, the city wants is encouraging us to consider improvements. I'm going to call them improvements that would allow traffic to flow better on the same roadway. So trying to get that middle ground on the best solution that minimizes impacts to the residents that are there, but also deters the traffic that is just cutting through, is something that we as a team, include MNDOT and the cities, have just committed to continue evaluating the situation through construction. And as need arises, we implement those strategies. And again, those strategies could be extra signage or extra law enforcement. There could be a signal retiming that can be done out there. So it's figuring out what the best tool is, and until construction begins and we start seeing how the traffic patterns settle down, it is still a discussion that is going to continue throughout construction.
Well, both Lincoln, Vernon, and Vernon beyond the Gleason intersection are way over capacity in the evening almost every weekday. And so speeding up or slowing down, and speeding is a problem, particularly on Lincoln, isn't going to help those of us that live there and try to get in and out of our homes. So that's, I gather, you're just going to take a wait and see to figure out what you need to do to.
At the moment, that is our plan. Let's see how we can best handle the situation, because pre-action or preemptive action made instead make that route again very attractive for the same people that we are trying to keep out. Not doing anything also is worrying, because to the same concerns that you have raised. So in the end, what we are moving forward with is it's a toolbox of strategies that can be implemented in a short period of time when the need arises, to help mitigate any issues that we are seeing out there on the system. So we are continuing, and we're encouraging not even just the cities but also the public to continue providing us comments. We are working with the cities to determine what the best solution is to help with the traffic implications that this project is going to cause.
One last question in regard to what you just said. Residents of Edina that are impacted, should we be communicating our concerns and suggestions to the city or to MNDOT or both?
I would say...
And traffic,
right.
I think it's going to get worse. We went through the bridge replacement and it got very bad, and I think it's going to get worse than it is right now. But what's our communication process to be most effective?
Sure. So again, your question on the best way to communicate, whether MNDOT or the city, I would encourage you to do either, or whatever works best for you. Reason being is that throughout the construction, the way we have written this contract with Ames Construction is that we intend to have the DOT, Ames Construction, and city representatives along the corridor to continually create a plan for the traffic mitigation that is needed to help with not only just diverting traffic, but any other issues, safety issues or safety concerns that might arise. So any way you can reach out to us, please do. And if it means the city, or if it means directly to me, or to through the project website, I encourage you to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question for you. Maybe I apologize if I missed this earlier, but Ames Construction, are they a local company?
They are a local company.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So they understand our highways. And then second of all, you kind of answered my question for this gentleman regarding the residents in Edina. And so we would be doing the same thing with our city council in Hopkins. But
Yes.
who will be responsible for signage in residential areas? And also, will you, MNDOT or the cities, consider additional police officers for directional traffic?
So the question about I'm going to generalize it, who will be responsible for traffic mitigation? It's going to be a combination of both. The way we have written our contract again is, short of putting a specific number of this is how many signs we need out there, we wrote it allowing for change. Like, go out there and put what you feel is needed. However, our level of influence is also limited. So we need the cooperation of the cities to help us expand that out, including extra law enforcement. As a DOT, we use highway patrol. Going to the local system, we'll need city police departments to help us with that. So it is continuing going to be a coordination, a cooperation effort between all the agencies involved.
Hi, I had a question about further north on 169 with the 16th Street ramp closure.
Yep.
So you're planning on removing the ramps for the southbound on 169, but what about the northbound side of it where there's an exit there onto that side of 16th Street, and it's about the same with acceleration and deceleration into and out of that neighborhood?
Sure. So the question one is why we are not closing the northbound access to 16th Street. About 2010, 2011 timeframe, the department approached the city of St. Louis Park to close that access fast, and the city did not give us consent to do so. We came back with closing the opposite side, and we did get consent for us to do that. So once we had consent, then we brought it into the entire highway improvements that we are proposing. So the way by statute, if there is an existing safety issue, referring more to fatal or severe crashes, then the DOT would be obligated to correct that safety concern, including closing the ramp without acquiring consent from City Council. But as we speak today, very similar crash history, I would say, between the west side and the east side. But there are still minor crashes, fender benders, not raising to the level of fatality or safety that would prompt us to go and close the access without acquiring consent.
Okay, I've kind of a two-part question about the 9 Mile Creek section. In two areas, you've got the 9 Mile Creek that goes on 169, and there's also 9 Mile Creek down in France in Bloomington, and they are kind of related in this question. When they built the bridge on 9 Mile Creek in 169, it was kind of like the late 80s, about 1990, if memory serves me correctly, and they built it as kind of a bridge. Seems to me, comment one is that's barely 25 years ago, and you're having to completely gut the bridge and start all over from scratch. So that concerns me. The second part of kind of the comment is that where 9 Mile Creek crosses France down in Bloomington, that sounds like it's built in the way in which you're saying you're going to be building the new 169 up by, on 169 9 Mile Creek with the causeway idea, okay? So down in Bloomington, they have got the marsh, and the road is constantly kind of floating on the marsh, and about every 5 years, they have to gut that road and rebuild it because it's floating, and therefore it gets this kind of ripple thing that could really send you flying when you're driving, so they have to redo it. Now, that's an ordinary little 4-lane road, and yeah, it's busy, but it's certainly not a freeway. And if a road of that size is constantly having to be rebuilt, as I said, it's probably every 5 years, and this has been going on for, 40 years maybe, since I was 16, okay? What is, if you're building the same kind of road up here on 169, I just envision a causeway being a real problem with a big freeway with trucks and all that.
Okay. Why we are proposing to build a causeway? So yes, the bridge, the original bridge was built in 1977 by the county. So it was a county road back then. Right underneath this bridge, which is not, we can't see on the, on this picture, there is actually an old roadbed. So the existing County 18, is it? It was out there, but yes, it kept sinking because of the same reasons that you mentioned. When they built the bridge back in '77, they did not include a good drainage system on that bridge. So as our snow and ice operations continued through the years, the chlorides that were melting on the deck were dripping directly on the columns right underneath the bridge, and that's the image on the left. So that was causing sectional loss on those columns. These columns go down 60 to 80 feet. We don't know what else is underneath the 60, 80 feet. Back in 2012, the DOT exposed 20 to 30 feet of these columns, and they did some repair work, so they just filled up the concrete again. But below that, again, we do not know what lies down there. So that prompted us to go ahead and do the bridge replacement. What is now different with our bridge is that the causeway, in a sense, yes, it's a roadway that is supported by fill. The difference with what you referred to on France Avenue is, in a sense, we are lowering these columns, similar columns actually, to the bridge, but we are lowering them down an extra, I would say from existing ground level, we are lowering them down 50 feet to 30 feet. Then building a platform that is going to be supporting fill material all the way to the top. So that, in a sense, gives you the structural benefit, like a bridge does, because the movement of the pavement and the load on the pavement is transferred all the way to suitable material. Different than France, that if underneath the roadbed it is still soft, it's going to continually allow a lot of movement on the pavement, and that's why you're seeing the buckling and the need to repair it every time. So for our highway, we are building, in a sense, a bridge that is supported way down and filling up everything else on top with soil and building our deck on top of that.
That'd be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Got another one back here?
This is a follow-up on the gentleman's question on Gleason Road, the traffic coming off of Bren, and then going from Gleason all the way through Vernon, and just really clogging it up. Many of us in that side trying to get out find that it could be, it's a safety hazard. I almost hit a man who just pulled right out in front of me because he was just tired of waiting for lines and lines in traffic. So people are taking very great risks. So signage there or stop signs or something might work. But I have another suggestion that might be a little retrograde here. Years ago when Edina, before they did all of the bike lanes and so forth, that was a 4-lane. Vernon was 4 lanes, so you had 2 lanes of traffic going both ways. My suggestion would be to go back to that, take the bike lanes off for a year, and then if there is more traffic there, coming going east in the evening, that 3 lanes could be moved, and then going the other way in the morning, 3 lanes the other way. And then at the end of that time, if the city wants to put in the bike lanes again and reduce it to 2, that might be another possibility. But I think that may help to alleviate the traffic going that way off of Gleason through that, because Otherwise, we have to have, like someone suggested, those policemen standing there directing the traffic on those residential streets trying to exit onto, or enter onto Vernon, going whichever direction. So the other two questions I had, I'll postpone and talk to you after. Thank you.
Okay. No, that's a good comment. Thank you.
All right, going back to the north side was the 16th Street exit, and I guess I have a comment and a question, I guess. So, you know, I'm a little challenged with the not closing the 16th Street exit going northbound. And if anybody on the city council lived in that neighborhood, they understand that during rush hour, there's a constant flow of people that cut through that get off on that exit, head down to the like the Toyota Audi dealership to bypass the 394 backup, right? And they're blowing through stop signs, and it's during rush hour. It's a horrible problem. So that's an issue I've got, but that's probably more with St. Louis Park than it is with MNDOT. But my question from MNDOT then would be, is there any consideration to lengthening the deacceleration lane to 16th Street? Because that lane is extremely short when you're going 55 or 60 miles an hour, and that's considering if people behind you are paying attention. So if it's going to stay open, and it sounds like it probably will, is there any opportunity to lengthen that deacceleration lane, which would really, I think, require just painting the deacceleration lane further up, because it's dangerous?
Right. Okay. So, so the question about extending the deceleration lane to 16th Street, currently that wasn't looked at as part of this project, and it goes to there is that sweet spot of how long a deceleration lane should be. Beyond 300, 500 feet, people start considering it as a third lane. So they're joining that lane, people are exiting, yet they are thinking they're actually going all the way to 394. So that is more of a safety issue on how long that lane could be, and I don't know what the current length is, but that's kind of mentioning the decisions that we go through to determine how we do improvements on the system. So I'll have to check on what the current length is, but I think it's already at the maximum because we know it's a very busy ramp.
All right, we've got a question right here.
The bridge, or under the bridge, I assume you're going to put big culverts because 9 Mile Creek goes under, and that's also a flood zone.
Yes.
So I am assuming you are working with the watershed district on the flowage under the bridge in case we get a big, heavy rain.
Correct.
And then second question is from 5th Street getting on 169 going south, is that entrance or that ramp going to be improved? Because right now it's a real short ramp to merge onto 169 going south.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
The first question about hydrology is more related to how water is and flood is going to be handled underneath the causeway. If you look closely on this rendering, it shows a bunch of holes in the causeway, and those we are referring to them as flood control culverts. Of course, the intent is making sure that the existing hydrology that is out there continues through when we finish our project. Yes, we did get, we were working with both the 9 Mile Creek Watershed District and the Federal Highway Administration. We were also working with the Army Corps of Engineers to get our project approved. To determine the ultimate design for this roadway, we considered flood events caused from a 1-year, a 2-year, a 5-year, a 10-year, a 25 years, 50 years, and a 100-year storm event. We had to make sure that the flood elevations, both upstream and downstream of our project did not change. So once we met that criteria, the approvals from the Army Corps of Engineers, the Watershed District, and the Federal Highway Administration came through. Now I forget your second question. The entrance ramps, yes. So the entrance ramp from 5th going down southbound to 169, it is going to be improved. Concern is it's going to be too long. So people may still be using it as a third lane because it's going to be way too long. What this roadway, the structure that we are replacing is about 3,000 feet between 7th or 5th and Lincoln to Bryan Road. And that is how much room you're going to have to merge onto the adjacent lanes. So yes, the ramp is going to be there, but there might be some sort of restrictions that we have to include so that people coming southbound from north of 55 don't use it at the third lane. No, thank you.
Just one question about the construction of the causeway. You've said you're going to be putting columns very deep underneath it.
Yes.
My question is that going to involve pile driving during the process?
Yes, it might.
Okay. Do you have any idea? I guess the only question I have then is that will there be rules as far as time of day for the pile driving?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be dusk to dawn or something like that?
Right. So, so the question about the pile driving, the Department of Transportation has construction noise guidelines, and we don't do pile driving at night. And trying to be good neighbors to the cities, we also try to meet their, I think their noise ordinances, and most of the cities along the corridor do have noise ordinances. I believe in the summertime they go up to 9 p.m., but it could be earlier. So yes, we intend to meet those ordinances as well.
A question over here.
Thank you so much for this meeting. Appreciate it. Looking at the bridge picture there, I'm not sure if I'm understanding what the dimension of those openings are underneath the fill part. I walk in that area a lot over the years, and there's a lot of wildlife there. Are those large enough so deer and other animals will be able to go back and forth?
So the question about the size of openings underneath underneath our structure, the causeway. The smaller openings, if you can see them, they're going to be at least 9 feet wide. And that was a magic number that we used to make sure that federal guidelines, if you go over 10, then you have to you have to create bridge numbers for each of the openings. So we made them 9. The big one that you're seeing in the middle is actually a pedestrian tunnel that we're going to be including in this project. The top width is 10 feet. The width is 10, and the opening itself, the gap is 14 feet wide. So plenty of room for wildlife to go through.
Thank you so much for this meeting tonight. But I also wanted to ask you regarding the schedule of the construction, will that be posted someplace, or will we as residents in the area be able to check someplace to see what's going to be happening when?
Sure. So on the posting of the schedule, that schedule is actually posted right now, and it was also on the same link or website. It does show schedules of the other bidders that were involved in this project. So it may be more information that people might need. But once we go into the weeds with Ames Construction to now define what they are planning to do and when, yes, that information will be posted on the website. And again, I do encourage everyone here and to put the word out there, sign up to our constant contacts. Those updates, they will be coming on your emails, and you will get to know what ramp is closing when. You'll get to know what traffic shift is happening. That will be real time information, probably versus a schedule that is posted that keeps changing. So.
Make a comment. Someone earlier asked if Ames was a local company, and you answered yes, but just to expand on that, they're one of the most experienced highway and bridge contractors all over the country. They've built freeways all over, and they're probably one of the top highway-heavy contractors in the country. So I think we're in good hands.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the comment. All right, again, thank you everyone for sparing the time, and yeah.